Hello everyone, it's Finance Eddie, and today we're going to be talking about Ripple and XRP. I'm going to explain to you what XRP and Ripple are, what sector of the financial system they are looking to replace, and as well how we can put a value on XRP and what we can expect for them to do in the future. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so first we have to talk about bank transfers. When you're in the same country and you want to send money from one bank to another bank, usually they all have deals with each other. So it's just a matter of saying, hey, I want to send my money to an account at this bank here. And that's it. It takes like a day, sometimes it's even instant, and it happens super duper fast. Now, so let's say now you're trying to send money abroad. Remember, this is you, and this is the account abroad that you're trying to send money to. Now, your bank doesn't have an agreement with this bank abroad, right? There's no connection here. So in order to get your money to here, the bank needs to find a route through all the banks in the world to get to this foreign bank. So remember, this was another bank in your country. So for example, if this other bank has an agreement with this bank in the foreign country, let me grab the yellow color here. In the foreign country, well, in order to get your money from here, you need to first send it to them. They're going to take a fee. These guys are going to take a fee, and then they're going to send it over. So that's like an extra hop that you have to make. Now imagine that you want to send the money really far. Like let's say you have a pretty obscure currency and you're trying to send it to an account with another pretty obscure currency. Well, let me show you what that would look like then. Once again, your bank has no connection to the outside world. So first of all, you need to transfer it to the bank with international contacts, right? So then these guys say, all right, we need to plan a route to get our money from here to here, but we don't have this direct link. It doesn't exist. In order to get that, we need to first send it to this bank, so down here, who knows this bank in country number 15, who then knows this destination final bank here. So as you can see, usually the money has to hop through different locations, and this is why transfers take time. As well, during weekends, usually transfers aren't processed at all. So if your money arrives here on Friday, well, you have to wait 2 days because these guys aren't working Saturday and Sunday. When you want to send money from here to here, you have to pass through every single bank. And every single bank is first of all taking a small fee for processing the payment. It takes them time to process the payment. They send it to the next guy, fee, time, next guy, fee, time. And this is why many times transfers can take up to 2 weeks even. Usually it's a matter of days. If you're within the same country or like within Europe or within the US, usually it takes 24 hours, not including weekends. And this is the main problem with the current financial system. The current financial system is still using methods of processing payments which are 40 years old. There's very few sectors that have seen so little innovation. So Ripple comes along and says, hey guys, we're able to process these transfers not in days, but in seconds, as long as you're connected to our network. So let me show you what that looks like. RippleNet is able to process transactions safely and securely using a very specific consensus mechanism. That's just the code that runs this, which is innovative. It's 21st century. Now, if you are starting on this bank and you want to send your money directly to these guys, you no longer need to hop from here to here to here to here, and then finally to here. No, you don't need to do all these steps. Instead, as long as both banks are connected to the RippleNet, let me remove this green arrow too. How it works now is that this bank here uses its highway connection to RippleNet. This takes seconds. RippleNet converts the currency and says, all right, well, there's demand for this currency. We want to get it to this account. We're going to process it within seconds, and then it's here at the destination. So instead of waiting days or even weeks, you now wait a couple of seconds. That's the solution that XRP is taking over. And this money transfer globally, about 155 trillion in US dollar equivalent, is transferred across the world every single year. So that's an absolutely huge market. If even a few banks, and they already are, start to connect themselves to Ripple in order to create corridors, well, as you can see, that leads to cost savings for them and for the clients. So let me tell you one example has already been done between the US and Mexico. So now instead of it taking time and hopping between different banks, well, as long as you are working from this US bank, which is connected to RippleNet, you are able to send money directly into Mexico through this bank. And then even if they have to go one or two more hops, right, to get from this Mexican bank into the correct Mexican bank, that's already much faster. Now, you may be saying, all right, that's great. Now I understand more or less how RippleNet works. And this video is just to give you a general understanding of how it works, because the actual details behind it are pretty complicated. But as long as you have a surface understanding, that's enough. Now we're going to go into what the XRP token is. So let's go back to the paint diagram. Let's say you have South African Rand and you want to convert it to Kazakhstani tenge, or basically you have an account in South African Rand and you want to send money into Kazakhstan and have it debit itself in the local currency. Well, how can you do it using RippleNet? Obviously, this bank here isn't going to accept South African Rand since they only work with Kazakhstani tenge. So somewhere the Rand needs to be converted into Kazakhstani tenge. So how do they do that? Well, I'm going to tell you how this used to work. So in this situation, it's highly unlikely that these two banks are connected, even by like various other hops. It's just going to take forever. So what happens? Well, there might not be any demand actually between the South African currency being converted into this one. So what happens then? These guys say, okay, we can't convert directly to this. So first, we're going to convert into the most used currency in the world, which is US dollars. So you convert the Rand into US dollars, and then the US dollars get converted into Kazakhstani tenge. So that's how this network usually works. But in order to do that, first you have to find a bank that's willing to convert US dollars into South African Rand, and then you need to find a connection between the banks which is willing to send the US dollars all the way through. Right? So anyway, we still have these long transaction times and a lot of fees. Now you have an additional fee because not only are you sending money very far, you as well need to convert it into a different currency twice. First from South African Rand to USD, then from USD into Kazakhstani tenge. So as we can see, when you need to convert through the US dollars, you need to hop the old school way, right? Let me just draw this so it's ultra clear. So South African Rand goes from the starting bank to this bank who says, all right, we'll convert it into US dollars. These guys take the US dollars, send it to this bank who says, oh, I know a guy who's closer to Kazakhstan. So these guys then take their money, send it to this bank, and this bank says, oh yeah, I have a direct link to this bank finally. And that's the old school way of how it works. Now let me show you how RippleNet and XRP working together make this faster. So let me replace this with, instead of US dollars, we're going to use now XRP. If this bank here and this bank here are both connected to the XRP network, well, it's very simple. The Rand gets converted into XRP, and this XRP gets converted into Kazakhstani tenge. And again, within a couple of seconds, you end up at the final destination. And the way that this works is that this bank over here doesn't have directly an agreement with the South African Rand. So these guys don't have an agreement with these, but they do have an agreement with the Ripple network that when an order comes through, these guys are going to do anything they can to fulfill it. That's one of the requirements for actually joining the network, right? So no matter which other currency, actually which other one of these banks wants to convert their money into Kazakhstani tenge, as long as one of these guys is attached to the XRP network, then they only care about the exchange between XRP and tenge. So, okay, forget the 155 trillion I quoted earlier. I just did another research for you guys, and I'm going to give you transactions for some of the most common types of currency exchange methods that we know of today. So Swift currently handles about $5 trillion every day. So that's $1.25 quadrillion a year. Chips, which is another form of exchange like between banks, handles about 400 trillion per year. Fedwire handles 900 trillion per year. As you can see, these numbers are absolutely astronomical. So let's just go easy on this and let's quote just the Swift transactions. Okay, so we have the amount of Swift transactions that were done in 2015, 1.25 quadrillion US dollar equivalents. Let me put up some more statistics. So the average amount of Swift payments per year, and remember, we're only looking at the Swift payments, are around 115 million per day, which give an average payment size of around 45,000. Let me put those two numbers down as well. Okay, so we've got our numbers by Swift. So 1.25 quadrillion transferred by Swift per year, 11.5 million daily transactions, $45,000 per transaction. I must say that's more than I thought, but I guess when the banks are transferring money between each other, we're talking about millions in each transfer. I've pulled up the official XRP charts from ripple.com, and these give some statistics for the past 24 hours, as well as just in general. So currently, if you add up all of the XRP, it's valued at 55 billion US dollars. Now, in the past 24 hours, we have a total trade volume, which is equivalent to about 4 billion US dollars. So this means that currently on the daily, XRP is handling about 4 billion US dollar equivalents in transactions. So let's see what percentage of the total Swift market that would end up being. So let's start calculating. We currently see that XRP handles about 4 billion US dollars exchanged every day. So we need to see what percentage of these 1.25 quadrillion, which are handled by Swift every year, this would be. So let's get an annual figure, and then let's divide that by this to get the current market share of XRP. So we have the first number. If we take the 4 billion that's transferred every day times 365 days, because XRP works 24/7, all of these only work Monday to Friday. Well, because this works every day, we arrive at a figure of 1.46 trillion annual transferred by XRP per year. That's 1.46 in US dollar equivalent. 1.46 trillion divided by 1.25 quadrillion equals, and let's do it the old school way by hand. So let's cross out these here. Let's cross out the next section, and let's cross out these last zeros that we have here. And let me just rewrite this and get rid of all of these extra zeros. So XRP currently accounts for 146 out of 125,000, which is 0.1168% of the entire Swift market. And remember, this is only Swift. There are other transactions too. So this number is actually much higher. But just for simplicity, I only took the Swift transactions. So XRP and Ripple together, they are currently handling about 0.12 of the entire market that's available to them. If they only grow 10 times, that means they're only at 1%. So at this point, we need to look at what growth rate they currently have. Guys, if you want to know what the difference is between the different numbers that are displayed here specifically, pause here, and as well, go ahead and pause here. Now, the growth rate of all of them should be pretty equal, so I'm just going to focus on the total XRP trade volume. All we care about is the growth rate. We don't actually care about what the difference between each one is for the purposes of this calculation, okay? But if you want to do it yourself, please pay attention to these and pick the one that you think best fits your calculations. So let's try to find historical data for the raise in total XRP trade volume. Okay guys, I've looked at the historical data, and for every year on the 20th of February, I took a snapshot of what the total trade volume was. I'm going to plug this into Excel and I'm going to come back with an average growth rate. Now you should know that it's very, very like this. It's not been a straight, nice and easy growth rate. That's why I'm going so far back so we can get an idea of what the real growth rate is. So I've pumped the numbers, and if you look at the average year-over-year growth of the past 8 years, it's just over 2,000%. Over the past 4 years, just over 100. Over the past 3 years, just over 100 again. So I think we're going to use around this 100% annual growth year-over-year number as a figure, because that seems to be the most reasonable one and the most recent growth rate that they're exhibiting, right? It's normal that when you launch, it goes absolutely insane and then it starts to normalize a little bit. So if we can expect 100% growth year over year, you might think that in 10 years, that means that we will be at 1.1%, right? You move the decimal over 1 times, that's a 10x leverage. But we have to account for compound interest, right? Because every year it's 100% of what was the previous year, not what was on the first year. It's the previous year 100%, previous year 100%. So let me do a quick formulation and tell you what you can expect this percentage to be after 10 years. Let's start in the first year. You're at 0.1168% and you're growing at 107% every single year, right? So the way that the math works out to figure out what you would be in the next year, you would expect approximately a doubling, right? So let's take this number here and let's multiply that by 2.07 here. And what do we get? We get approximately 0.24. So that seems about right. So let's do that again. Let's take this 0.24 and let's multiply it by this 2.07. And what do we have in the third year? Well, now we're at 0.5%. So let's take this 0.5% and let's multiply it by 2.07 again, and now we're at 1%, and this is where it gets absolutely crazy, right? So this is now the 5th year, so 4 years from now we can expect to be at about 1%. That's already a 10x time, right? That's already 10 times bigger than where we started in 4 years. So let's give it another couple of years. So let's take this times this again, and now once again we're going to be at 2. Let me just show you how quickly after 10 years we actually cross 100%, which would be impossible, right? But basically, if you just keep doubling every single year through the power of compound interest, this starts to escalate very, very quickly. We're already at 20%. Let me just grab this, and we're just going to have to do this 2 more times, maybe 3. Now we're at 40%-ish. Let's take this times this again. Well, now we're at 80%. And if I do it 1 more time, so we take this times the 2, well, now we're over 100%, and that's impossible, and that doesn't make sense. So let's see. Year number 1, we can expect to be at 0.12. That's where we are now. Year number 2, 0.24%. Then 0.5%. So then in year number 5, we are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're at 2%. Then the year after that, we can expect to be at about 4.4% and then at around 9%. But between here somewhere, I would expect the growth rate to start to slow down. But if within the next 4 years, you can expect a 10x on the initial investment, well, that's pretty freaking insane. So guys, that's how the numbers work out. I think that there is quite a lot of upside potential here. Because remember that this is not just like 1% of whatever. This is 1% of, let me go back to paint here, 1.25 quadrillion. Okay, guys? So we can probably expect the volume traded of transactions to grow at something like 100% every year, which means a doubling. And I would expect that to be able to proceed for the next couple of years as long as the SEC situation gets resolved. So what does that mean? Well, guys, if you got smarter now, I would suggest doing some more research by yourself and making your own decision on whether or not this makes sense as an investment. So thank you guys for watching. Remember, this is not investment advice. This is just reporting. This is just news. Like I said, I try to give you as best information as I possibly could. Take care, guys. In 4 years, I expect this mathematically. The numbers show that we should have a 10x here, which would be nice. And let's hope for the best. And I hope that everybody plays from a position of strength. And remember, guys, remember, do not get wrecked. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Guys, another additional, just because it's always good to calculate the same thing 2 ways to make sure that your numbers are a little bit correct. So I also did the calculation based on daily transactions. So if we take the 4 billion and we say that XRP as well does about $45,000 per transaction, we arrive at daily transactions? Well, in order to hit the 11.5 million that Swift is doing right now, it would take approximately, let's see, in 4 years they're doing 1 million, 5 years 3.3, 6, 7, in 7 million. In 7 years, they're doing 14.5 million. So if you do it by the daily transactions, it would take them 7 years in order to reach the entire market of Swift. Guys, as a bonus, if you stay till the very end of the video, I'm also going to talk about the burn rate. That's probably not interesting to most people. Now, every time a transaction is done using XRP, a certain amount of XRP is burned, and currently that number stands at about 5,000 XRP every single day. And the total amount of XRP in existence right now is currently 99.99 billion. Let's just go with 100 billion, okay? That's what we started at. Okay, so let's just assume that the burn rate is going to stay the same per transaction. It's actually going to increase as the load on the network increases. So this is actually the best case scenario. So what we're calculating here is the inflation pressure on XRP. Now, on the right hand, I have here the annual burn rate of XRP, which currently stands at about 1.8 million and will increase to 2.6 billion every single year. So what does that mean for the XRP value? The reason why I didn't bother to include it in the video, in the main video, is that actually, if you look here, the deflation rate, because every year the supply of XRP will be diminished, well, it's going to take 10 years until we hit around the 2.7% deflation rate. So for the first, 7 years, we see here 7 years, it's pretty much a non-factor. Even by the 10th year, now you're only matching what most developed countries are experiencing as inflation. So, I mean, the deflation rate for a 10-year horizon is not something you need to worry about. Now, if you were to extrapolate this to the next 20 years, so I expanded it out a bit, and as you can see, this is something they're going to have to change here, because according to this, by the 15th year, they're going to be at 0 XRP remaining in circulation. So that's obviously not going to be a situation which can happen if they want this to work long term, right? So something will be done here. Either they're going to decrease the burn rate per transaction, or they're going to start to actually adjust how much XRP is in circulation. And I think that this is probably going to be the lever by which the governments maintain control over the system. And I think that this is what's attractive to most governments, because they will actually be able to control the supply on the market and therefore retaining their monetary control. For all you crazy guys who stayed this far, really, thanks for watching. If you stayed this far, please make sure to subscribe and like, because I think I've earned it at this point with such a deep dive into the numbers. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a comment if this helped you understand the situation and what you can expect and what maybe some of the problems are as well. Thank you for watching. Remember, see ya.